Forget float like a butterfly. There was plenty of them in Chad Bennett today, and not just because he's afraid to fly. When he lands in Los Angeles tomorrow morning our time, he'll have a week to impress TV producers behind the Survivor Series, who also have a boxing show called Contender.
But I've got a team around me now who believe in me as well. Now it's time to start repaying the favours and give it a good crack.
The show offers relative unknowns the chance of international stardom, so the man they call Hollywood really could have his name up in lights.
Movie career, realistic, $1 million US, prize money, and still a shot at the world title.
With all that faces them, the pair say it's hard to stay grounded, but what a man to have in your corner in one of world boxing's most unforgiving environments. A huge part of Costa Zoo's success, security boss Glenn Jennings will advise the best he can.
Much the same as we do with Costa, all the little things, get everything crossed off and make sure that the best outcome for Chad.
Nestled on the edge of the Wallara National Park, the naturally beautiful area behind Pinny Beach is undergoing some TLC. An infestation of bitter bush near the old Yondeo Church campsite is being ripped out with the help of Conservation Volunteers Australia under the guidance of National Parks.
They're working on removing bitter bush, which is a threatening weed that invades native plant communities. And by removing the weed, they're helping the native bushland to regenerate and helping to conserve some really significant plants and animals, that some of which are unique to the local area.
This team is made up of volunteers from Australia, England, Korea and Japan.
I love nature.
I enjoy getting out in the outdoors, and it's a great way to make a contribution.
Housing already encroaches on the bush here, and more of it has been approved for the near future.
Increasing pressures on the coastal environment make it even more important that conservation areas are in good shape and that weed infestations are controlled and that the native bushland's given the best chance of being healthy for the plants and animals for years to come.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. Regarded by many as the jewel of Lake Macquarie, Pulbur Island boasts leafy views across the lake and a lovely pebbly beach more akin to a tourist resort. But a less desirable feature of the 70-hectare nature reserve is the large amount of bitter bush and lantana choking the native vegetation. A team from Conservation Volunteers Australia is helping restore the ecology by pulling out the weeds that over a century have managed to find their way onto the island.
We think that most of the lantana and bitter bush came to the island through waterborne seed, as well as birds that eat the berries off the plants elsewhere and come to the island, and then when they defecate, the seed lands in the soil here and produces new plants.
Pulbur was once an experimental wildlife sanctuary with kangaroos, koalas and even emus placed on the island.
In those days we didn't know what we know today about habitat for wildlife. A lot of the animals that were released here were not suitable for the island and couldn't survive. The island didn't have the right food for them.
Those that didn't starve were shot by hunters. These days, Pulbur is the domain of snakes, lizards, possums and birds, and thanks to the work of volunteers, even the native trees have a better chance of survival. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
See, this isn't out of character. This is Sunset Beach. This is what you think of. It's crazy out there.
Thankfully, this bed is empty and trauma nurses at the John Hunter Hospital hope it stays that way. They've just experienced a horrendous string of crashes. The lives of a young family of 4 were cut short on the Pacific Highway north of Tea Gardens. Then over the weekend, another tragedy claimed 3 lives near Singleton. And with the Christmas-New Year holiday looming and traffic on the Pacific Highway set to triple, they're finding it difficult to remain optimistic.
We've been really upset by the tragedies that have occurred within the last week, and it really hits home to all of us because it is the Christmas period coming up, and it is something that just tears families apart.
20-year-old Daniel Linigan spent 2 weeks in the John Hunter's intensive care unit with a ruptured ventricle of the heart following a serious car crash 6 months ago. He, along with the trauma nurses, are calling on motorists not to be complacent.
You don't think it'll happen to you as well. It's one of those things where everyone thinks, oh, that'd be horrible, but it probably won't happen to you. And I was definitely of that opinion, and it did happen to me, and it wasn't nice, and it took a long time to get my life back to sort of where it is now.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Nothing was ever guaranteed. That was until this morning when 2 signatures rubber-stamped a deal the Knights claim will end its hand-to-mouth existence.
We've both got local membership, community ownership and rugby league foundations.
It's a memorandum of understanding, a commercial partnership between the Knights and Wests Group over 12 years.
But at the moment there's no get-out clause, no. Unless they fall over and go break the football club and they're going to cost us too much. We've guaranteed them $1 million.
That figure has been capped. How it's spent will be up to a newly formed football committee.
Our football operations will be run and controlled by the Knights. The commercial side of the operations, that's where West will be involved.
On top of the fiscal benefits, the Knights will also have access to elite training facilities still being built at the West's own Balance Health Club. The jobs of 14 Knights workers have been assured, albeit with terms.
We will take their staff with us, and it'll be up to them if they want to conform with our way of management.
Whether the money will translate into results on the field remains to be seen. The deal comes into effect next month.
But at the end of the day, the burden's still there. We've got to perform, we've got to perform, and West are there to do the same thing. So we've still got the fight.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
(2,700 kilometres across the Tasman might seem a long way to come to check on the downwash of an aircraft, although for the Auckland Rescue Helicopter Trust, it's rather handy when the Newcastle-based organisation, regarded as its Australian sister service, has the same type of aircraft that they will soon operate. Even though Auckland was the Australasian pioneer of surf rescue helicopter operations, it's around 25 years of contact and collaboration with the Hunter Westpac service that has backed the decision to head to Newcastle for advice.
We feel that the Newcastle service would be one of the best in the world. There are very good services in Australia, but we feel that Newcastle we mirror them and they mirror us in the type of work that we do.
And having operated the Bell 412 for more than a decade, the Hunter service is more than willing to share its knowledge.
We've had the benefit of being able to fit out the aircraft twice, once originally and the second time with a refit. And of course, we've learnt from some of the little mistakes that we've made.
The knowledge exchange even includes crewmen, with Auckland senior Herbie Barnes among some of the Kiwis to visit Newcastle to observe both Westpac One's performance and the Hunters' training techniques. Gary Blair, NBN News.
The Sydney to Hobart yacht race is enough to break the largest of boats. Last year's race saw Scandia abandoned at sea and the 98-foot Conica Minolta buckled under the strain. So how would you like to tame Bass Strait in this one? At 30 feet or just over 9 metres long, the diminutive tow truck misses the mantle of smallest boat in the race by a few centimetres, but it's definitely the lightest. Skipper, Newcastle smash repairer Anthony Patterson says he'd take a 60-footer to Hobart if he had one, but 30 feet is all he's got.
A lot of it's going to depend on the weather for those 3-4 days. If we get the right conditions, there's a good possibility we could be up, in the top rankings on the handicap part of the race. But then again, if the weather is in our favour, we're going to be, really toughing it out.
Former Olympic sailor Gary Boyd is part of the 7-member crew, and with just enough room below for 2 or 3 people to sleep at a time, it's lucky they're all good mates. Newcastle Cruising Yacht Club entry and last year's runner-up AAPT will line up again. Noakes Boatyard owner Sean Langman has chartered last year's winner Nicorette for a shot at line honours. Michael Graham's Inner Circle, Jim Holly's Aurora and Mark Davies' Lucifer round out the local entries.
Slashing $94 million on road funding on a road which has been claiming a record number of lives is criminal.
It's the second fatal crash on the New England highway in a week. The Pantech truck sat awkwardly, closing the road for most of the night.
The single occupant, a female in the motor vehicle, was killed on impact. Again, it's one of those situations where it's a fairly good road, it's straight.
The woman, a 29-year-old from East Maitland, was travelling north on the highway when her car hit the truck head-on. The driver of the Pantech was taken to hospital suffering shock. It's the latest in a string of fatal crashes on Hunter roads in the past fortnight. All this and the summer holidays hasn't even begun.
We're just seeing too many of these type of accidents of late, and it makes it very hard for police and emergency services. We can only just keep appealing to the public to try and concentrate more, especially at this time of year.
Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
After yesterday's flat and calm conditions, today's swell was a welcome change. It certainly proved a challenge in the women's surfboat finals. Redhead have been enjoying a great season so far, but they didn't feature much in the decider. Instead, North Bondi set the pace, but on the run home, their race went way out of shape. It left a three-way battle for the line, and while it looked like a dead heat, the South Curl crew closest to camera beat Illawarra's Austinmere and Avoca Beach. Austinmere, though, had the last laugh, selected to represent the state. The Taplin Relay was another close affair as the scramble for points really heated up. It was still anyone's race after the first leg, but things soon opened up midway through with the ski leg completed. Ironman champ Joshua Blair gave the leaders almost half a minute head start as he anchored Hunter's event with the swim. Illawarra Branch made the most of that with some great body surfing to catch everybody out. It led to an easy run to the line to claim victory, while Hunter somehow came home second to help them place third on overall standings.
"32-year-old Joanne Zareb and her three children, Megan Lee, Casey and Hannah, have been missing since yesterday morning. The woman and her children were last seen at a premises in Gwyneth Close in Camwell. Ms Zareb left in a 1995 green-blue Mazda Estina, similar to this one seen here. The registration plate AQM 31Q. Ms Zareb is described as having red shoulder-length hair and a copper-dyed fringe. She is 165 centimetres tall, of thin build with blue eyes and fair skin. Her daughter, 5-year-old Megan Lee Zareb, has blue eyes and fair skin. She's around 91 centimetres tall, with shoulder-length brown hair, and was last seen wearing green boxer shorts, a black t-shirt and sandals. 3-year-old Casey Zareb has dark brown hair and olive skin. He's of medium build and was last seen wearing shorts and a t-shirt with sandals. Baby Hannah is 11 weeks old, with fair skin and blue eyes. Joanne suffers from a medical condition, and police hold serious concerns for her welfare and that of her 3 children. Anyone with information is urged to contact police or Crime Stoppers. Daniela Intilli, NBN News.
It's a decision that affects every student throughout Australia, and in the Hunter, the University of Newcastle is feeling the pinch.
It was saddened me to an extent that I could see that the facilities and the campus experience was never going to be the same.
From July 1, 2006, students will no longer pay a general service charge, creating a $5 million hole for the funding of student services.
Currently we receive about $2.6 million in our own right from a collection of a general service charge. That's about 50% of what is paid on campus.
The general service charge costs students about $180 per semester. The fee provides financial support for services such as the Students' Association, sporting and entertainment facilities. There are fears campus life will be changed dramatically.
My little sister's going to miss out on all this fun that I got to have.
Losing that funding will lose the spirit.
In an effort to maintain services, the union is looking for commercial operators to set up stores on campus.
To offer additional services that we currently provide as an adjunct to what the union currently does in its own right, and there's also been some discussions about replacement of services that we currently provide.
Universities are already becoming a kind of place where you just go to do your classes and then leave. After VSU, there'll be no reason to stick around anyway.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
In June, we brought you the story of Charlestown doctor Paddy Lightfoot, whose retirement after 40 years of work was on hold because he couldn't find a replacement doctor. He can now retire because 2 GPs have agreed to make Newcastle their home.
We just sort of walked through the door and said, we read your article on the divisional website, and yeah, here we are. And it's because we're both GPs, it's 2 for the price of 1. So yes, they were very surprised, yeah.
The couple was sailing up the coast on holiday with their young family when they rounded Nobby's and discovered Newcastle.
We literally did just sail into it with no preconceptions other than I always thought it was a very industrial town. I had no idea it was so culturally stimulating. I didn't realise the beaches were so lovely.
After a 2-year campaign to find a doctor, the Smith Street practice was in danger of closing. But the sailing doctors have ensured ongoing care for the 15,000 patients on the books.
I didn't know that they'd been looking for that long, but to be honest, the story is a very common one. Lots of general practices around the whole of Australia are been looking for a long time for GPs.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. Thousands of people have bags stolen or items snatched from the beach each year, and according to beach inspectors, the key is not to leave anything of value unattended on the sand.
Usually it's when the kids or someone puts their bags up in the dunes, or they think they're doing the right thing by hiding it, but really out in the open and keep it in a clear visible area from where you're surfing, and you've got more chance of it not being stolen.
Car parks are also watched by thieves who know the drivers are likely to be away from their cars for some time.
Especially in the school holiday period. 50% of our stealing reports are from motor vehicles, and we're warning people to try not to leave valuables in motor vehicles, especially in beachside car parks.
Police say while thieving is common, Hunter Beaches generally remain a safe place to visit.
Historically, we do not have problems with antisocial behaviour. We have more problems with beach theft. So the police will be targeting, through the holiday period, beach theft and theft from car parks.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Originally made for SodaStream machines, these cylinders have since been put to a more popular use. They are the petrol tanks of these model Formula Ones, which take just over a second to travel 20 metres, a real case of blink, and you'll miss it. The models are made from balsa wood, designed by kids from 6 Hunter Valley high schools who are now part of a national challenge.
We call the kids of today the click and go generation. 3 clicks, if nothing happens, they're gone. So what we do is engage them at a very high level with tools that they find exciting to work with, and then they want to learn about the theory that underpins it.
Just like the workplace, teams had to document the project from start to finish.
Designing the cars, I love that, and then racing, that was awesome. And I think I'd like to do something like this when I leave school.
And that's the idea. Students given access to technology used by professionals, computer-aided design programs and machines testing aerodynamics, foundations of careers in engineering.
We would never have access to that ordinarily, and the 3 councils and the Coal and Allied Trust have just put their money where their mouth is.
Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
It was only a week off, but the Jets were put through their paces today to make sure they shed any excess baggage well before the season resumes on New Year's Eve. Sharpening their mental focus is the key, according to the coach, especially after the pay dramas that emerged last week.
We've made our points pretty clear this morning. It's over, we have to draw a line under it. What's happened's happened. We'd be very foolish to let something like that derail us.
While captain Ned Zellick and Richard Johnson will rejoin the squad midweek, Nicky Carl confirmed today he's staying for the remainder of this season at least, after attracting major interest from an Asian club.
My goal was always to finish a good season here. I'm really enjoying my football at Newcastle, and hopefully I will stay here to see out my contract.
He was a big hit at the John Hunter Children's Hospital today as well, with Edgeworth youngster Tyler Farmer especially, who's a huge fan. Almost the entire squad, along with other locally based sporting stars, visited young patients bearing posters and other gifts. The news not so good for defender Craig Deans, with confirmation his season is over after requiring further knee surgery. Hunter Pirates management have been focusing heavily on getting fans back to their games. While that's been tougher than expected, today's news that Wednesday's match will be televised into China was an unexpected surprise. Their opponent, Melbourne, is no stranger to such coverage. However, the home side hopes their first showing in China will bring about the right result in front of a potential audience into the hundreds of millions. In other news, sacked importer Adele Bradley has been signed to play in the Philippines. Cricket, and it wasn't a bad weekend for local teams, with Wallsend's women's side thrashing Sydney heavyweights Balmain. While state rep Leah Poulton had a rare failure with the bat, Blues teammate and Wallsend skipper Jenny Wallace took up the attack with some brutal shots in a solid total. In reply, Balmain could only muster 80 runs, despite boasting 3 Australian reps. The state women's team plays in Newcastle this weekend. Meanwhile, Newcastle's Colts won the Northern New South Wales Carnival on the Central Coast. They wrapped up the championship yesterday with a 2-wicket win over North Coast.
It wasn't just Christmas being celebrated today. Instead, the news Cameron Park School has been waiting so long to hear.
This year we've enjoyed 12 months of consultation from Kaleidoscope, and next year we will have a nurse here 2 days a week. So we're very fortunate and very happy.
A new bike track also put smiles on the faces of the 30 intellectually and physically disabled children who go to school here. Little Imogen getting a guided tour from her knight in shining armour.
The most important thing for any child with a disability is to be able to access life, to access doing things, and to be able to participate.
And it was an emotional day for David and Leonie Cunningham, who lost their son Christopher, or CJ as he was fondly known, in July last year. A playground with modified equipment was opened in his honour, and it was all made possible thanks to donations from family, friends and Hunter businesses.
And it's just nice to have something that we can come back to and remember him by, and be able to see all the kids really enjoying something that is a legacy from him.
It was amazing enough to see a 20-tonne rock sitting in the middle of the road at South Newcastle Beach. But what became even more incredible was the seemingly endless process that began to get rid of it. 3 years on, cliff stabilisation work is complete, the 3-metre rock-catching buffer zone is in place, and people are now allowed to stroll along the coastal road.
We're down here without hard hats and vests, and as of now, anyone in the community can come along here and enjoy the walk.
It's very good for Newcastle people. We do a lot of walking around, especially around the beaches, and I'm very thrilled that it is open today.
The Lord Mayor says there are no immediate plans to allow cars to use the road because other projects like the refurbishment of the ocean baths need the money. And just to make sure, bollards were installed at the top of the road this afternoon.
Only foot traffic at this stage. To get slow-moving vehicles along here, it would be a lot more expensive.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Trained at Maitland, Abercrombie Dexter feels right at home at Newcastle, winning 11 of his 22 starts at the International Paceway. He's a fair chance in the Newcastle Cup as well, but there's a catch. Getting used to the standing start, and it's taking time.
It's a bit of a problem, as it will be for a lot of them in it.
John Downing has never driven his charge from a standing start in some 76 outings, and many judges think it'll make or break his chances.
And that's the big query. This is its first go in a standing start race. If it steps away, it can lead all the way and win it.
Last year's winner Mendacity is in the 14-strong field, but Mustang Fire is the early favourite for the time-honoured event. Soldiers Point lawn bowler Jason Stokes got the top gong at the Newcastle District Awards presentation overnight. It was reward for a solid year that included the Champion of Champions title and guiding his club to the #1 grade state pennant. And the South Australian women's cricket side is in Newcastle, ready for its double header of one-day matches against New South Wales. Training at the #1 sports ground late today, they know they'll be up against it, given the Breakers are unbeaten in 4 games. 400 players are in the host team, including Wallsend keeper Jenny Wallace and fast bowler Sarah Andrews. He's played just a handful of games in 3 years, but Brandon Mann has remained a part of the Hunter Pirates in more than just spirit. Assisting at most training sessions, it was hoped he could be drafted in to help cover for the loss of injured players, but NBL rules say he can't play.
He's played about 6 games in 3 years and hasn't played at all this year, and he's been penalised because of the point system.
It sums up the run of luck this week. Mike Helms will have further scans tomorrow that will reveal the full extent of a knee injury, while Larry Davidson heads back under the surgeon's knife on Tuesday. That leaves the squad with no imports and an on-court regular missing against Adelaide tomorrow night, meaning everyone has to step up.
We showed against Melbourne that our top 5 or 6 can certainly match them. What we need is the young ones coming off the bench and making an impact, not just filling up positions.
Eli Sulai's now part of the group after getting his first ever NBL game time on Wednesday night. While just a rookie, the teenager understands he must make the most of every minute.
That's it. Well, if I want to be professional in this league, I've got to start somewhere and I've got to show these guys that I can do it.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Alina Grandage is the cream of this year's HSC hospitality course.
I came top of the state, I got 95% in that subject.
The Macquarie College student already works in the industry. An after-school job, all part of the success, training for another challenge. Where can you see yourself in 10 years' time from now?
Managing the Hilton, for sure.
And she'd need not look any further than her own school for help with that. The entire hospitality class at Macquarie College finishing with band 6 marks. It represents success right across the region. Merewether High's Emily Heath topping family and community studies. Kyle Trelfo, the state's best for industrial technology.
It was a surprise to get the phone call because I really wasn't expecting this, because I didn't think I went that well on the exam, but well, obviously I must have.
Told of their efforts on Monday, the biggest challenge was keeping it a secret.
I could only tell a couple of people and I've been dying to tell my friends for ages now, so it's been good to tell them.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
what we want on Sunday, the rally here, there's also a rally in Sydney as well and around the country, a very different message that the majority of Australians don't support racism.
In April, Wayne Callan showed us his latest invention, a device he claims reduces the risk of electric shock and electrocution. 8 months on, his laboratory is now an entire house, its switchboard fitted with the Protex switching technique.
We just have our little black box in between the active and the neutral, and it isolates the power at about roughly 4 times faster than your current safety switch.
In what is a controlled environment, the device is being tested around the home. Oz Industry, a division of the federal government's Department of Industry and Tourism, has backed the invention, Wayne's company beating almost 3,000 others to a special grant.
It has a chance to revolutionise the electrical safety market. And not only did they have a great idea, but they've been able to move it into a productised form.
Australian Standards is yet to approve the item for sale. Adam McKilrick, NBN News. Morning rain delayed the start of play, and South Australia had little hesitation sending the home side in when it did start. It took just 13 runs to break through, and what a way to do it. Chris Britt taking a snare to remember. Michelle Goscoe didn't take long to get her eye in, picking off Shelley Nitschke with placement and power. Leah Poulton wasn't holding back either. The Newcastle-bred batter clipping the Australian spinner over the top twice in the same over as she moved into the 30s. On 34, it ended. Her wicket falling before more rain, New South Wales eventually posting 200. Nitschke came out all guns firing in the run chase. And Sarah Andrews was the target. But the Novocastrian quick had the last laugh with Martha Winch's one-handed classic. In rocked International Female Cricketer of the Year Karen Rolton, who left nothing in the kit bag. After hitting 3 successive boundaries off Andrews, she laid into the rest of the attack. The problem was partners, who came and went. Sharp fielding ending the next partnership. As New South Wales went on to claim victory. The two sides back up again to play tomorrow. .7 of a mark is all that separates twins Bridie and Shannon Cannellan in the University Admission Index.
Mine was 99.55.
And 98.85.
Both studied the same HSC subjects, both finished every course with a mark above 90.
It's good to have feedback, I suppose. Yeah. I don't reckon there was any rivalry, it was more like friendly competition.
Yeah.
Careers in music and drama among their options. It was a double celebration for Katara High in every sense. Another set of twins, Alyssa and Emily Ray, also enjoyed university entrance scores in the 90s.
You can use each other's notes if you can read them. Yeah. We didn't actually do it that much. We're pretty separate in what we did.
Although students now have access to their University Admission Index, they won't find out if they've qualified for their nominated course until offers are made on the 4th of January. Adam McKilrick, NBN News. Carolling by candlelight and whatever else, King Edward Park flooded with Christmas colour. There were the classics and the religious. Most found their voice, though, during a song of national pride, a call for unity and peace, hardly a Christmas carol, but timely nonetheless. From the stage to the sky, a spectacular moon was the supporting act for this display in what was a fitting finale. Adam McIlrick, NBN News. It was this fire 3 years ago which claimed the life of a man near Cessnock, a blaze police say was deliberate, involving more than one arsonist.
To date, we haven't identified specifically who they are, but those inquiries, as always, are continuing.
It represents a continual problem across Cessnock, but one that's now the focus of a new partnership. Spurred into action this weekend, it's called Operation Phoenix.
We're going to saturate our problem areas with Parks Rangers, Cessnock Rangers and New South Wales Police, with RFS and Fire Brigade providing local knowledge on location of tracks and also problem areas.
Using data from all those agencies, we've identified areas where we have problems of fires being lit. The suspicion is, of course, that they are being deliberately lit.
The circled crosses indicate where fires have started in the Cessnock area since July. Nothing too major, but a worrying trend.
The plan is to build a profile up and, if possible, actually prosecute arsonists.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Almost no one expected the Pirates to beat a team that had lost just once at home all season, but the visitors played the role of underdog to a T. After a slow start to the season, Geordie Cullen has been revelling in the additional court time he's been getting of late. Scoring 20 points in the first half, he got the Pirates away to the start they needed. But coach Adrian Hurley knew it was depth that was going to win this match, and his demands of the understrength bench were met as the points kept coming. The pressure on the home side was telling, as the experienced heads of this Pirate crew set sail in the third term. Aaron Trahair's recent run of form has been a lot like his shooting, hard to miss. His teammates don't mind having him around either, as they built a lead of 18 at one stage. Adelaide stormed back to make a fight of it late, but it was too late. Geordie Cullen's 31, the highlight of a convincing 12-point win, and given the circumstances, you could see just what it meant to this side.
On a picture-perfect Sunday, Newcastle and Nobby's beaches were relatively empty, but there were a handful who didn't let threats of violence ruin their routine.
It's just a habit we have as a family. We usually duck in here for some chips and something quick to eat.
Traffic into Newcastle East was restricted. This group of motorcyclists among those to be stopped and searched under new legislation. At Civic Park, a peaceful anti-racist rally was certainly that, a passionate few answering a call to arms.
Doesn't matter what colour or race we are, we're all the same, we all have feelings, emotions.
Australia is a free country and everyone should be welcome here, and we need to encourage our children to have that same attitude.
The only way to combat racism is to speak out against it again and again and again.
It's now a matter of wait and see if the message sinks in. Extra police remain in the city tonight to make sure it does.